You know, I've been told many times by the seasoned veterans of World of Warships Legends that Tier 5 is the place to be. It's better to be at Tier 5 than it is Tier 7, Tier 8, Legendary Tier, the higher tiers. And the reason it's better is something I'm never quite able to discern from the people who make this claim. It's either better because it's more competitive at Tier 5, or because you're more able to have an impact on the game at Tier 5. If the claim is that Tier 5 is more competitive than the higher tiers, well, I invite you to look at the opening sequence of this game. We spawn near the Charlie Cap, and there's a lot of red ships out here, so we're smoking up. Good position for a smoke screen, too. It's going to allow us to get shots on all of these ships that are within our main battery firing range, and there are at least 5 of them. But take a look at the cruisers. The Omaha, there's a Furutaka over there, and there's another cruiser behind the island that, well, I don't know the identity, but all of them, Omaha, the other 2 cruisers over there, they're all broadside to the position of my team. Königsberg, there it is. This guy's broadside, the Omaha was, even the Furutaka that's going behind the island is broadside, and there's at least 2 cruisers and a battleship behind me that could shoot at these broadsides. They're simply not. So the fact that these tier 4 cruisers, I think all of them are actually tier 4, are just, sailing with their citadels open for business, I think that suggests that the game knowledge of these particular players might not be as extensive as the knowledge held by certain, experts at this game. These are probably newer players who are just starting out in their tier 4 cruisers, whether it's the Furutaka, the Königsberg, or the Omaha, and they're just trying to grind up the line, so they don't really know. For example, if you're sailing a Furutaka, maybe you don't want to give flat broadside to the smoke screen containing the British heavy cruiser, because the Exeter does have AP, and it does Citadel cruisers. We've done 30,000 damage thus far to these cruisers, and we're not done yet. Or maybe you want to sail broadside to a smokescreen if you're an IJN cruiser like the Furutaka in order to launch your torpedoes. That's something that players of the IJN cruisers need to learn early to not do that. The torpedoes are not the main armament, so maybe we taught that Furutaka a lesson. In any case, the Königsberg is nearly dead. The Omaha is not that much of a threat. There's a Nürnberg coming in, but as of now, nobody has capped Charlie. And there goes our first kill of the game, by the way, on the Königsberg. And next, the Omaha. Will it be a double strike, though? No, but the Exeter's AP does manage to find the Citadel, and there's our third kill of the game, both cruisers. So, I realize this is just one example, one piece of data, and there's pretty much no scientific value in one piece of data, but what I would say is that there's no way Tier 5 is more competitive than the higher tiers. You still see the same nonsense down at Tier 5. The difference between the gameplay at Tier 5 and Tier 7, 8, and Legendary Tier, the only real difference is that the ships up there are both more powerful and more vulnerable than the ships down here. So it's harder to get away with doing, well, poor things like going broadside in front of 5 enemy ships like the couple handful of tier 4 light cruisers did. They went broadside. They were able to get away with it for a while until they were sunk, but had this been in tier 7, they probably would have been taken out in a dev strike. It's just easier to deal tons of damage up at those higher tiers because your ships have so much more firepower, and it's because of that firepower that, well, it seems like it's worse at the higher tiers. Same skill level, of course, between the players for the most part. It's just that the bad players get taken out a lot quicker, while down at the lower tiers, they have a tendency to survive longer. So it can kind of look like maybe there's some more tactical prowess down here, but there's really not. It's just your firepower is more limited, so there's less you can do to punish mistakes. Speaking of which, the enemy team has conquered both Alpha and Bravo. They've got 2 caps to our 1, and they are ahead of us on points by nearly 200 at this point. So we really need to get into this Charlie cap and take it. The problem for us, of course, is that there is a repulse outside of the Charlie cap, so we're going to smoke up. We don't really want to be taking any of the repulses AP. I've played that ship enough to know it is very good at taking out cruisers, and the British heavy cruisers, Exeter included, have very exposed citadels that are quite easy to hit. I'm pretty sure I could get dev struck very easily in this thing. So we're behind the island, we're smoked up. I don't know if the smoke is actually necessary, but better safe than sorry. We really don't want to be taking any damage from this guy. Our CV is dropping him. He takes a big hit there from, I think, the torpedoes or maybe one of the friendly battleships, and that looks like it's basically the end of the repulse. We might be able to yoink the kill here with our armor piercing as he comes around the corner, but no. He ends up getting taken out by the Duca d'Aosta, actually. So we've just got an Iron Duke now out there, Tier 5, or Tier 4 British battleship. He's not going to be that much of a threat, honestly, if I remember correctly. I think he is one of the newer players grinding at Tier 4 in this game, because the entire time for the rest of this game, he's just going to sail sort of broadside like he is now to the rest of my team, which, to be fair, it's just me, the aircraft carrier, 2 more cruisers, and a battleship somewhere near the back of the map. I don't even know if the battleship can hit the Iron Duke, but he's going to sail broadside. And he's going to shoot HE the whole time, which not necessarily a bad thing, but, well, because the British battleships have great HE for the most part, that is. But if you are going to be grinding the British battleship line, that does involve getting through the Iron Duke. And one of the things you should know about the Iron Duke is that I'm pretty sure it has bigger guns than most of the battleships at Tier 4, and it's got a lot of overmatch potential. If you shoot the AP at cruisers, you're going to dev strike them. If you shoot the HE, you might do some decent damage, especially to cruisers with no armor like the Exeter, but ultimately, it's not going to take them down, and you can see this Iron Duke is just content on shooting HE at us, even though, you know, he probably could get some really good damage if he did switch to the armor piercing. But newer player, things to learn, that all comes in time. The Iron Duke is not doing very well on HP either. We've got him burning with a fire. Our HE actually can't seem to do any damage to him. That's another thing about these battleships at the lower tiers. Some of these Tier 4s have crazy armor schemes that really protect them from, well, for example, HE. These are no small guns on the Exeter either. This is a heavy cruiser. This HE can penetrate at least 32 millimeters of armor, and we're just getting shatters on the Iron Duke. It's been a long time since I've looked at that thing's armor scheme, but I think it's one of those battleships with just inexplicably crazy thick armor at the tier. We finally get actually a pen on him and another fire. Hopefully that one's going to be lethal. But the point situation is a big concern here. If we take a look at the top of the screen, we'll note that the enemy team outnumbers us in ships, although that may soon change with the demise of the Iron Duke here. He's on fire twice now, and our final AP salvo is in the air. It does take out the Iron Duke for a grand total of 85 damage. Quite impressive, I know. But that evens up the ship count. It's now 3 versus 3. The CV is flat broadside to us and spotted, so we take a shot at him, but that's when the Duca d'Aosta comes around the corner. Nice shot on the CV too, by the way. 3 citadels and the high caliber medal. Plus Duca is, well, he's reversing to us broadside. RNG sort of says, well, you're not going to get lucky 2 times in a row, so we do 0 damage to the Duca. But we'll try it again before we get around here behind this corner. We do manage to hit his citadel twice, taking us over 100,000 damage done. But we don't really just want to sit there exchanging fire with the Duca. We want to go after this CV, and you could call this maybe a little bit greedy, but the CV is by far the most influential ship left alive on the red team, and the Duca just needs to take about 1 more hit before he goes down. The final remaining enemy cruiser was spotted somewhere near the north of the Bravo cap, and he has not yet been reacquired, so He doesn't even factor into this equation. I don't think we need to worry about him at the moment. All we need to do is get clearance over this island to get some more shots on the Duca. He shoots at us and drives his sap shells right into the dirt mound in front of his face, but we clear the island. He's sort of angled to us still. Can we actually pen that? It looks like we can. And that AP should be enough to sink the Duca. Or not quite. We get 3 ricochets and an overpen. How lovely. Rear turret of justice going to dispense the king's justice. Yes. The Duca goes down, and that just leaves another Omaha. Oh, how lovely. And the Serov left alive. The enemy team is still far ahead of us on points. So at this point in time, the only thing we can do to win is sink them, which shouldn't be that tall of an order, because an Omaha is, well, I don't regard them as too much of a threat. It's not that it's a terrible ship or anything. I know there are a lot of players in this game who enjoy going down to Tier 4 and seal clubbing with the Omaha or the Marblehead, using that lower tier American cruiser DPM to spread freedom around the seas or whatever. But, well, the Omaha just can't defend itself, especially not against a heavy cruiser like the Exeter. This ship is great, by the way. If you're in the market for a Tier 5 premium and you enjoy the heavy cruiser style of gameplay, particularly when it comes to the British, look no further than this thing. It does a lot of damage, as we've been able to establish, against enemy cruisers. It's got smoke screens, and it's got a heal. What's not to like about this thing? This is actually very excellent at Tier 5. It's one of the better premiums out there, I would say. In fact, this game came from my most recent stream on Friday. Wasn't sure whether I was going to put it up, but I spent most of the weekend playing Baldur's Gate 3 on my PC, so I didn't really record any new games, and I thought this was worth showing, especially to discuss the question of is Tier 5 more competitive? And now that we draw toward the end of this game, I wonder what your thoughts on that claim are. Let me know in the comments section. But it's just the CV left. He's not spotted. Looks like we are going to be able to flip this cap, which that's not by design in order to overtake the enemy on points. We obviously don't have enough time left for that. That's really just to stop the enemy from accruing points from this particular cap, because if we continue to allow them to do so, I mean, it's totally possible they could tick over 1,000 points before these 2 minutes are up, particularly if the Serov is able to sink my last remaining cruiser teammate, who, by the way, is in the Charlie cap, stopping the enemy from accruing points there, so their grand total has basically stalled at 777. But I don't know how healthy that Furutaka is. He's doing a good job against the Serov, I guess. He's got him down to almost no HP, and evidently he can shoot at the Serov, which is a little bit sad for us. We are on 4 kills. We've got the high caliber and Confederate medals. A Kraken would be icing on the cake here, and we could easily get it if we could shoot at this Serov. But we did a lot of damage to him earlier, and while he is going to take out our Furutaka is also going to take him out. So it's a nice trade, and it results in the game being won. Although I think more than anybody on our team, we had a bigger impact. The leaderboard seems to suggest that. Exeter, though, very good ship, and Tier 5, certainly fun to play, but not because it's more competitive. Hope you enjoyed this game. If so, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.